Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So Friday's update brought some big changes to the swords on Citadelle. More, as I'm sure you're already aware, there were some nerfs, there were some buffs, and the swords are quite a bit different now on Citadelle than they were previously. So my original goal for this video is I wanted to take everything to health cap, and I had done a save and quit around 53 last night. I had to go to bed. I was so exhausted, and I come back in this morning and I get into 53, and then my game crashes and I lost my entire save, which is really unfortunate. But I'm out of time with this video here. I don't have any more time to dedicate to this particular video, so we're gonna do it just based on my first 53 rounds here. But I did get a lot of time with each sword, and I do have some ideas of which ones I think is the best and worst. So we're going to kind of go through from worst to best here, and let's go over this sword update. So first off, some general changes here. All the swords can now hit up to 2 enemies at a time instead of 1. So the additional hit is going to give you 100% damage at close to medium distance, and it's only going to do 50% to that second zombie if they are at a longer distance there. And players can now parry amalgam grabs with the elemental swords, which is actually super cool. You see the amalgam about to start grabbing you, and you just hit the parry button and he won't be able to grab you, and he'll be stunned, which is super awesome. And it's you can still also parry when he does grab you and he's pulling in. Just go ahead and parry and you won't take any damage from that, but you can now actually stop him from grabbing you, which is super cool. I don't think you were able to do that before. I know you could parry it while you were in the amalgam grab, but I do not think you were able to actually stop the amalgam from grabbing you, but now you are able to do that. So they addressed an issue where the sword damage could be decreased when using the void sheath augment with either shroud, and that has now been fixed, so your swords are now going to do full damage. However, it is completely broken at the moment, so I would wait before using the void sheath, as it will crash your game if you're using the sword with the void sheath augment for ether shrouds. So just keep that in mind and maybe wait for the next update until you see that the patch knows that that has been fixed. Okay, so that'll do it pretty much for all of the general changes that were made to the swords in this update. So the number 4 sword on my list, the absolute worst sword on Citadelle Daymore, is, in my opinion, these are all my opinion and you're free to disagree, just do it respectfully in the comments, is the Caliburn, the fire sword. The only adjustment that was made to this sword, aside from the general adjustments, was it now activates your napalm burst augments when the sword procs, similar to the Balmung and the Durandal. So the dark sword and the electric sword already used your augments for Deadwire and for the Shadow Rift. So now the fire sword is going to do the same thing and use your napalm burst augments. Now with the gameplay in the background, you're going to have to just forgive me on the whatever it is with the textures that just aren't loading in this game, but I don't know. They completely broke everything. But you see with the fire there, obviously I'm shooting the fire out of the sword there, but you can't see any of that. The zombies are dying. They're literally just disappearing in front of you. It seems to be worse with the fire sword than any of the others, although the dark sword, all those textures are broken across the board. So one of the best things I think about this sword is that you do get its ultimate ability pretty darn quickly, and you can use it quite often. It's not as strong as the other swords. You're of course getting the napalm burst as well. One of the big things beforehand is whenever you would hit like an amalgam with the fire sword, it would automatically set them on fire, but now it's not doing that. Even if you had the big game augment, it's not going to do it every single time like it did before the update. So yeah, for those reasons, the fire sword is going to be the bottom of my list. And then coming in at number 3 on my list, and this might be a little controversial to some of you out there, this was previously the absolute best sword, no question about it. So number 3 for me is going to be the light sword. So they did make some changes to the light sword. They did give it some nerfs, so they slightly reduced the effectiveness of the armor regeneration ability, and they lowered that ability from 5% to 4% on the armor regen, and that's not a huge difference. 5% to 4% is not a huge difference, but it is enough of a difference that it can be felt in game. As I was playing through with this sword, I just felt like I was not regenerating my armor as quickly as I was before the patch. Now this could be due to a number of different reasons. One, of course, the change that was made, but the 5% to 4% should not have been that deep of a change. But I do think some of the issue with this sword, however, is maybe I am killing too many zombies. So just maybe killing the 2 zombies at a time is letting more zombies hit me. I just felt like I was getting hit a lot more often with this. Now, and the health and the plates and everything just were not coming back as quickly as they were before. Now at this point, I do not have the health regen on with my augment there, because swinging this sword that much slower, and with the changes to the armor regeneration, I was really feeling a major difference, and I did not like it whatsoever when I was using that augment that allowed me to regen some of my health. So I did keep the swing and melee faster on with my melee macchiato, and that seemed to make the sword feel a whole lot better. But again, I'm taking a lot more hits from zombies than we were taking before the patch, and that just simply could be due to the fact that, you know, you were killing less zombies before, and you had a bigger stack of zombies in front of you when you were doing it, and they weren't able to hit you. Best guess that I could take there, because the nerf itself should not have been quite that effective. But anyway, that's why I'm going to put it at number 3, but not because it's a bad sword by any means, but also the next two that we're going to talk about, I think, are exceptional right now here in Black Ops 6 Zombies on Citadelle Namor. And of course, just to touch on the ultimate ability here for the light sword, I just don't think that that lasts long enough. It only lasts about 3 seconds, and then the zombies are swarming you again. But if you get an insta kill and you pop it and you just run through your horde of zombies there, you're gonna just wipe them out. I just don't think it lasts quite long enough, and I think that could use just a little bit of a touch up. And then the number 3 sword on my list is going to be Durandal, the electric sword. So this was previously one of the worst swords in the game, but after this update, it's got some huge changes and a major glow up here, and this sword is one of the better swords in the game. So I think there are 3 very usable swords, and that's the light sword, the electric, and the dark sword. I think the only one you should avoid right now is the fire sword, but the changes here to the electric sword, they increase the special attack damage. So it now does 65% damage per tick rather than 40% damage per tick, and also they decrease the cooldown from 25 seconds down to 3 seconds on its special abilities. So that would be your dead wire effect that you get with the sword. So that is now going to proc a whole lot more frequently. They did reduce the chance of that procking, but the cooldown going from 25 seconds down to 3 seconds was a massive change, and you will now see that dead wire proc a whole lot more frequently when you're using this electric sword. And this thing is absolutely great. The special ability charges up super quickly, and I just love this electric sword right now. Definitely one of the better swords in the game. All right, and then last but certainly not least, the number 1 sword on my list, Balmung, which is the Void Sword, the Raven Sword, the Dark Sword, whatever it is you call it. I definitely think this is one of the best, if not the absolute best sword in the game. And I can kind of go back and forth between all 3 of the top ones on this list, because they all have their own, you know, great specialness in their own way. But in my personal opinion right now, this Void Sword, this Raven Sword, is definitely the best in the game, and that's because of the huge changes that came to this one as well. So they reduced the required amount of kills to charge this sword up from 40 all the way down to 25, which was a massive change there. They decreased the cooldown for the Shadow Rift procs there from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. And of course, they did slightly lower the chance for that to proc as well in order to make up for that reduced cooldown, but you'll still see your Shadow Rift procking a whole lot more frequently once your sword is fully charged up on the zombies that you're taking out in the horde. And of course, you're going to be able to use that special attack, that massive Casimir grenade, the Ether Tear that you can do with this sword. You're going to be able to use a lot more often now that it's been reduced from 40 down to 25 in order to charge that up. And these changes have been absolutely wonderful to all of these swords. I enjoyed using these so much, and I can't wait to get in there and use these a little bit more. The only one I'm going to avoid is the fire sword. Everything else, I mean, honestly, it's kind of up in the air. You can rate them in whichever way. It's pretty much just personal preference, unless you put the fire sword somewhere higher on the list, in which case, you're wrong. Anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. And if you want a little bit more Cool Whip, go ahead and check out this video here. My name is Cool Whip, and I'm out.